Order. It's 6:37. Roll call. Tom Barney.
Here.
Ray Borden.
Here.
Ray is here, and Michael Loth is here. Okay, agenda revisions and approval.
Make a motion to approve the agenda revisions and approval. And
Second.
Tom's got it.
I'll give you a second. You got it.
Okay, Ray, motion, second by Tom. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Approval of minutes, April 27th, 2020.
Motion to approve the minutes
Second.
from, April 27th, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Tom, second by Ray. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 5, consent review and discuss May vouchers. Rick is not here tonight, so I don't know if we're going to get any feedback from Rick. I had one question for Rick I will just mention, and it was the teachers on call. There were quite a few negative charges, meaning we got credit on those, and Rick contacted Mr. Holmes to cover that, and the answer was teachers on call lost check number 238782, so it needed to be voided and was reissued as check 238942. Answer, did you have anything, Tom?
I didn't submit any questions. Just make a comment. It's good to see that our GHS PAC pool and emergency lighting We Energies bill is now down around the 10 grand range rather than the 20 that it has been.
Yes, very good. Ray, did you have anything for Rick? Or?
No, the only thing I wanted to bring up was the sign bill that we paid for $6,500 because it was a building committee, but I see what that answer was.
Okay. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to consent to payment of claims as presented and reviewed.
Second.
Okay, motion by Tom, second by Ray. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 That motion carries. Unfinished business, item 6A. I think I can summarize this page. Rick met with Miss Brittany Altendorf 4 times. Jeff already covered this in the building committee meeting, interestingly enough. But further information here in finance committee meeting was it was 2 video conferences and 2 meetings in person where Rick gave a tour of the high school and also a tour of Field School. She's already familiar as a parent with Amy Bell, so they skipped Amy Bell and the other schools. So I think that's all we've got here, unless someone else has questions or comments. Nope. Okay. Item 7A, our new business, monthly purchase requests exceeding $15,000, and there are several. We have Mr. Krabriziak in-house. Is there anything you want to cover? I mean, I understand the material, but maybe just a quick synopsis of what's going on here. You've got to make the case.
I can certainly do that, Mr. Loth, if everybody can hear me. Okay. So as we talked about last time at the last finance committee meeting last month, what I bring to you is the hardware refresh proposal. This is something we do on an annual basis. Looking through the background that I shared with you, 3 different items to lease, 680 Chromebooks, which is our annual amount to stay on cycle. We have the staff laptops, 390 notebooks, and we have 90 desktop PCs, 37 of them for Project Lead the Way at Kennedy. The rest are more lab PCs at Kennedy, as well as all of the elementary IMC library catalog stations. So the hardware cost for that is $616,810. That figure was obtained through competitive bidding. The bidders are in your packet. You can see the results. The low bidders are listed, Trox for Chromebooks. All of the PC hardware was low bid by Technology Resource Advisors. My proposal, which is in front of you, is to lease the equipment over 4 years. Usual process that we use for leasing is to bid that out as well, bid out to five different possible lease vendors. The low bidder this year was US Bank. Business manager Mr. Erickson has reviewed the leasing as we generally do every year. We've done business with US Bank before. So the lease payment for the per year lease payment, principal and interest, would be $148,479.01. The lease quotes are in your packet, like I said. So my request to the Finance Committee is, what I just proposed. In addition to that, Superintendent Holmes and I had a conversation regarding, what the district might be needing to do in the fall, given the possibility that we may or may not be back in the buildings physically. The possibility exists that we could add grades 1 and 2 to our one-to-one Chromebook program. I bring that to you as an option. Certainly that's something that Superintendent Holmes and I can discuss with you. So, but like I said, that is as an option. So if there's any questions.
So it looks like the option for grades 1 and 2 would be an additional $180,000 approximately. That's what you're showing here?
So the lease payment would go from where am I here? Where are we?
Oh, I'm sorry.
148 to 180.
148 to 180. That's correct, Mr. Borden.
Okay. Now I see it.
Yeah. So,
Mark, are we going to have any problems getting these Chromebooks?
Actually not. The vendor that is the low bidder, which is Trox, actually has devices reserved for us for the 680. They would also be able to accommodate the additional 600 should it be the Finance Committee and further on the board's decision to go with grades 1 and 2 with the one-to-one. All of the PC hardware is in good shape through HP.
Mark, can you walk us through what the case would be if we didn't renew these leases? I mean, grades 5 through 12 have Chromebooks already today. Would they then have to return them, or do we have the option to extend the current leases?
So as far as Chromebooks go, we don't have anything coming off lease this year. So what we have coming off lease are 145 desktops, and we have the existing staff laptops coming off of lease. So we have an option in place. We could extend the lease for a year for $82,500, or we can buy out either or both the laptops and desktops. But the Chromebooks, we want to keep moving on the 4-year cycle, because we take those as they get to their 3rd and 4th year. We will typically take them out of the hands of students and make them loaners. At least that's been our past practice. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions, Ray, or any of the other board members? I see did we lose Sarah? We lost Sarah.
Yeah, Michael, at this point, I'm fine with proceeding with the 4-year lease as presented for $616,810. We don't know if we'll need to extend one-to-one to lower grades. I think if it comes to it in the next couple of months and it looks like we're going to be remote again, then we make a purchase at that point if needed.
Ray,
Are we guaranteed those for 1st and 2nd grade, though, if we don't do it now? Or do we lose that option?
I don't know that we lose the option. I think the availability would become much more scarce, which is why the superintendent and I, wanted to bring this to you now. I can check into that and report back if that's the committee's wish.
I'm just afraid with everybody trying to get the Chromebooks that if we don't go with it and move forward with it, we will not have them available.
What grades have Chromebooks today? I know there was some taken out of classrooms and issued to students at the elementary level.
So currently we are 1-to-1 grades 3 through 12. Grades 3 and 4 are kept in the classroom, and cards starting at grade 5, those go home with the student every night.
Okay, so if we make a purchase for the $616,000, does that give you any extra? Since none are coming off a lease, are we going to have more that we could allocate to those lower grades?
We will have some, and what I would remind you, or remind the committee, is that we do have a considerable number of Chromebooks in the hands of students that are at grades K through 2 right now. So I believe we're at about 70. So there is some room to play with, but if we're not going to have 600 in stock to be able to play with.
Okay, now is a Chromebook the right device for grades 1 and 2? Or could a different device be better for education at those grades?
I don't know that I'm the person that's probably best qualified to answer that, except on a technical basis. I know that the district's practice has been that we've been using iPads in the classrooms at kindergarten, first and second grade. We're certainly not anywhere at a 1-to-1 level with those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what do you want to do? I'd be okay going either way, but I think.
Well, I mean, not knowing if it's the right device or not for those grades, I wouldn't want to make the purchase. You know, maybe that's something we ask Teaching and Learning to review and bring something back to us next month to consider.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Sure.
The one thing that we are hearing from parents is the screen time. And if we get our younger kids and they all have an iPad, let's be honest, they probably have an iPad at home. But if we give them all an iPad from school, then that's just more screen time, as opposed to a computer where you're shutting it, putting it away in a sense, compared to an iPad where they're playing games and doing stuff. So just my thought, iPad not necessarily is the best option.
Certainly.
You're saying it is or is not?
Is not.
Not. Okay. And I think the plan here, though, was to go with Chromebooks for grades 1 and 2, possibly, as an option. Is that what I'm reading here?
As an option, yep, for 180. Can Brenda answer this question?
Ms. O'Brien?
I would like to review this a little bit more before I would say whether an iPad or a Chromebook would be most relevant for these grade levels. So I would like some time to review the pros and cons of each.
And Mr. Loth, may I offer up something?
Absolutely.
Statewide superintendent's meeting that was held. One of the things that I have heard is that it's probably around 50-50 in regard to whether or not we will be able to bring kids back into those settings in the fall. From my perspective, given everything that I currently know, while I appreciate what Mr. Gabrzyk has said, and I do believe that the board needed visibility into this situation, it is one where I believe that you could hold on Chromebooks for those grade levels and for me, it is the chance that we will have to take without having a firmer direction from regard to what DPI and the State Department of Public Health is going to do. At this juncture, I do recommend that the board consider going ahead and doing the technology refresh as we had planned in the past, and to put the hold on the grades 1 and 2 Chromebook purchase.
Okay, I agree. I think we can go ahead with the annual technology purchases. I will, and hold off on grades 1 and 2. I will also comment, I hope we are back in school in early September. And there's an individual here in the PAC tonight that I hope sees to that. Look behind you. we know you're here. Okay. Hey, I'll take a motion on this for the 600K number.
I make a motion to bring forward to the Board of Education with a positive recommendation to lease purchase. Well, I don't know why it would be lease purchase, but to lease Chromebooks and purchase probably PC hardware in an amount not to exceed $616,810, and finance the lease purchase through a 4-year lease arrangement with U.S. Bank as presented, and charge to the appropriate capitalization and lease accounts in the general fund.
Second.
Okay, motion by Tom, second by Ray. I will just mention that the number there that says direct purchase, that $7,485, that's for the Chromebook covers, and apparently we cases, we typically buy those, right? And I'm guessing there's not much left of them after 4 years, so they're probably tossed out at that point. Statement, Mark?
That would be an accurate statement, yes. Which is
Okay.
why we don't lease them in the first place. It's really not an appropriate item, being a consumable.
Right. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right. Next item is will be also in new business and still 7A, and this is the tuba purchases, the $46,500. Is there anyone here to talk to us about tuba purchases?
Yes, Mr. Loth, I can, and also Ms. O'Brien can as well. I'll let Ms. O'Brien go first, and then I'll follow.
Sure, and then also John Fox and Kelsey Shook are also on and watching and would be willing to join at any time should you have any further questions about the tuba. So I thank them for their availability tonight as well. So this was presented in terms of looking forward regarding the sharing of supplies or equipment that we need to be mindful of, even if we are back in session full-time in the buildings. So this came forward from both the middle school and the high school in terms of sharing instruments, and currently the instruments that they're continuing to share would still be the tubas. So in order to not have those shared instruments, Kennedy Middle School would need to purchase additional ones, as well as the high school. So the budget impact is there. The only thing I would like to point out is that from the funding sources, I am confident that the teaching and learning budget could support KMS. However, I am not as confident with the teaching and learning budget supporting those tubas from GHS. So I would just caution that right now, as I am not sure how my budget will close out this year, and I'm getting very close to spending all of my budget this year. So I'm not sure that that would be able to come out of this year's budget, and we would need them as early as summer if we are able to reconvene for summer lessons.
Okay, I'm not sure I know what the split out is between KMS and GHS. Looking in.
Okay, so KMS is approximately, let's see, $18,400. And Mrs. Clymer from KMS said that she would have money to support half of it. The band budget could support one tuba of $3,000, and then I would be able to support the rest. The high school, because of the quality of instrument that they receive for almost semi-professional tubas, if you will, the cost per tuba is significantly more than at Kennedy Middle School. So we're looking at about $2,500 coming from the band department and about $23,000 coming from teaching and learning. And again, that $23,000 is where I'm not confident that I could take that all out of teaching and learning.
Brenda, I just have a question on that. Is this something, because I remember in band, my parents just leased the instrument directly from White House of Music. Is this something that we really need to expend the money on having this additional? I understand the lugging back and forth, but maybe accommodating something different with the practice time and have some designated, I don't know, study hall time for the practicing versus allotting all that additional money. And since we already have that many tubas, if we're looking to then have a second for the students to use, wouldn't that be something then that feasibly the parents could go ahead and lease for the period of the year?
That would be a question that maybe Mr. Fox or Mrs. Shook could join in. I'm not sure if they would be able to do so at this time.
Could add them. However, I would like to interject at this point. It is one, when that was brought to my attention, and I did look at it this past week, and I appreciate where they're coming from, particularly given what I know about COVID-19 and all those things that come along with it. It is one for me where, based on what I currently know about budgeting, school systems, not just in Germantown, but throughout the state. You know, I've already informed our incoming superintendent and our new business manager and all of our directors that in all likelihood, Germantown School District will need to look to formulate 3 separate budgets with subsets of 3 in those. So eventually, essentially, what is going to be looking at is establishing 9 separate budgets. It's one, given everything up in the air in regard to tax revenues, in regard to tax payments, short-term borrowing, cash flow needs. In the course of all this, a lot of work is going to have to be done. And while I appreciate that the band has foresight and was requesting at this time, to Ms. O'Brien's point in regard to her budget and in regard to Ms. Clymer's budget, I don't think timing is right yet on this particular purchase. I think it is one where you are going to have to wait. I think more research is going to have to be done. Ms. Larson's point is well taken. It's one where at this juncture, I would ask the Finance Committee to table this until your July meeting.
Mike?
Yes,
I would agree with Mr. Holmes, and at that time, if we have to come up with money, we can either look at general fund or board contingency if it's something that's a dire need at that point, until we get a better clarification of what's going on with everything.
Okay.
Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan, if you can answer it now, that's fine. If not, it could certainly wait till next month. But the background shows that students would have their own mouthpieces. I haven't played a tuba, so I don't know. But why wouldn't your own mouthpiece be sufficient enough to protect you from, transmitting a disease?
Mr. Lowe.
Yeah, so Mr. Fox is on, so if he could speak to that, I would really appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I really appreciate the consideration of the proposal from the band department. Regarding the mouthpiece, I was a little bit in and out on that, but I think, was it Mr. Barney who mentioned about a mouthpiece?
Right.
Yeah, we've read some studies, and there's been some things lately that have been out there in music advocacy groups where they've blown fog and smoke and things through instruments. And even though there is every kid has their own mouthpiece, there is transfer going on in those instruments. So blowing warm air and condensation and aerosol particles, they talk a lot about aerosol particles with virus transmission, and that is happening regardless of switching mouthpieces. So that's where we're thinking that we're no longer able to share instruments. And in the band director world, that's something that is going around a lot now, is people talking about, oh my goodness, we're not able to share instruments, because that's standard practice in our industry, I guess, if you want to call it that.
All right. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. I think there was one other question about availability of instruments being rented from White House of Music. And we inquired with White House of Music about that, or other music stores, and they just don't rent tubas because of the cost of them. They don't rent them out the same way you could rent a flute or a trumpet or a clarinet. So that's usually something that is normal for a music department in a school to have in their inventory. So for us to continue kind of as we go, we would need more instruments. So as we have it right now with the 17 tubas that we own in the incoming 6th grade band, we would be able to have one tuba player in that band, whereas it'd be normal to have 4 in a band like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I'm actually very happy that this was brought forward. I did not realize that we were sharing instruments. You might want to turn your mic off, Mr. Fox. There's a lot of noise in the background there. Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy this was brought forward. I think we need to find the funding for this. I didn't realize we were sharing instruments, and I think in this day and age and the recent COVID-19, it's a really bad idea to share instruments. I played a woodwind and a clarinet, so I didn't quite have the problem of condensation in the instrument as the brass players did. I found the brass players' instruments quite disgusting when I was in high school, when they had to clear them out. So I'm fully supportive of getting one-to-one instruments for these type of instruments. So I think from Mr. Holmes, he's looking for us. He suggested that we table this for this evening until we know the funding sources. Are we good with that, or should we go ahead maybe with the KMS funding, because Brenda seemed to think that maybe we could
Mike.
do the funding for that? Yes.
Okay.
Sarah.
I can appreciate the level of caution, but when you look historically on how long instruments have been shared, and we have the seasonal flu and a number of other things that go on, instead, I think we need to get creative. What is the cost of cleaning the instrument? Could we have the tools and the flush to just regularly do that? Now that everything has gone technology-based, instead of having a lesson during the school day, maybe it's a virtual lesson after school when they're at home with their practice instrument instead. Just trying to look at avoiding the cash outlay of all these instruments, and you have to have some balance here between common sense and threat assessment. And if we were talking about these being 90-year-old people using a tuba together, I think I'd feel differently about it. But when you are looking at risk, just my 2 cents.
Okay, I think it's a risk. I still think it's a risk, but I believe we're going to table it for this evening. Sound good, Mr. Ray? And
Well,
Mr. Barney?
Mr. Loth,
yes.
it's Mrs. Clymer. Just to
I
say,
see
from
you.
I am just wanting to weigh in from KMS side of things. I am able to go in with this with Miss O'Brien. I respect the fact that you guys want to maybe have some more time to think about it and come back in July, but or June, as far as KMS is concerned, we would be willing with the building budget to do what Ms. O'Brien was discussing, and we would be willing to put in our part to make sure that I just want to make sure that the students are protected, the safety of the students. I appreciated what you had to say as a clarinet player. I'm a clarinet player myself, so I understand where you're coming from with all that. But I want to make sure that we are protecting the safety and health of our students as they move forward. And we've had a really wonderful and active band program, which I want to continue to see supported. So certainly at the level that Mr. Fox brought to us for KMS, I would be willing to, at the building level, support that.
Okay, is there any interest on my finance committee?
I will just say I support Mr. Holmes's comments. Can you hear me? I support Mr. Holmes's comments, and I think we need a little bit more clarity on the budget. Until such time, I think we should be very cautious on spending dollars. But I would entertain the rule in or rule out what Mrs. Larson mentioned from a sanitation standpoint. I mean, if you're gonna have your own mouthpiece, you sanitize the tuba, student over student. Is that a good workaround? I mean, we're going to have these same challenges in the basketball season. I mean, 5 people sharing a basketball, 10 people sharing a basketball. I mean, there's got to be common sense because we're going to have these conversations again. So we're certainly not going to cancel basketball season or other sports that we have within our K through 12 programming. So,
All right.
all I have.
So it sounds like we're tabling for this evening. Yep. Okay. Very good. Last item was 8C under general reports. Mr. Erickson left us with some, departing comments, you might say, and with regard to Billy, Quarles, and Brady, R&R risk management, and so on. It's all at the end of the Finance Committee material, so I don't think I need to go through all of it. I do have something, though, I want to mention. I realized when I sent Rick the question this morning on the vouchers that I believe that this was going to be his last Finance Committee meeting. So in that email, I'd like to share with you now. And I said, Rick, I believe this is your last school board meeting. It has been a pleasure chairing the Finance Committee with you as the business manager of the Germantown School District. Thank you for your many years of service to the citizens of Germantown. I also want to thank you for making the impossible subject of school finance and the annual budget somewhat understandable. Really, I'm not joking. And I put a smiley face in the email. And then I also said, I also wish on behalf of the school board a happy, healthy, safe, warm, and long-lasting retirement. And a round of applause, please. So I won't read Rick's whole email, but he just said his first line was, "Hi, Mike, right back at you. I'm sending an email out later today thanking the entire school board and a couple of thoughts included. Please watch for it." And we all saw his email, and I'll let it go at that. And I will accept another motion.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Okay, first adjourned by Tom, second by Ray. Any further discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries.
And we'll have a 5-minute break.